Senator Ted Cruz, how are you, my friend?
Mark, it is always terrific to be with you.
It's always terrific to be with you, too. Now, before we get into some of these other subjects, I just saw this. Barack Obama at the Conference of Mayors today saying what he's been saying repeatedly. I want you to listen to this, Senator Cruz, been a former litigant in front of the Supreme Court. You're a highly skilled constitutional scholar. You litigated on behalf of the state of Texas. And so I want you to listen to Barack Obama yet again. Cut 7, go.
I want to work with Congress whenever and wherever I can. But the one thing I'm emphasizing to all my cabinet members is we're not going to wait. Where Congress is debating things and hasn't been able to pull the trigger on stuff, my administration is going to move forward, and we're going to do it in partnership with all of you. I've got a pen and I've got a phone, and that's all I need, because with a pen I can take executive actions. With a phone I can rally folks from around the country to help grow the economy and restore opportunity. This is today.
Senator, this is a president who's very brazen about his imperial conduct. What do you make of this?
It's extraordinarily dangerous. Mark, I know you fully appreciate that of all of the dismaying aspects of the Obama presidency, perhaps the most dangerous is this consistent pattern of lawlessness. We have never had a president who over and over again openly, aggressively defies the law. If he doesn't like the law, he refuses to enforce it, or he simply proclaims it changed. This is something that ought to bother everyone. This is something that shouldn't be a partisan issue. On area after area, from immigration law to drug law to welfare law, he decided he didn't like the law, and so he simply proclaimed it changed. That's not the way our legal system works. And the most egregious instance of this is Obamacare, where the president over and over again says it's the law of the land, but then he doesn't treat it as the law of the land because he has made exemption after exemption. So, for example, the law says the employer mandate will kick in on large businesses on January 1st, 2014, a date that has already passed. The administration announced, no, it won't. We're granting every big business a one-year extension. Now, for 200-plus years of our nation's history, if you disagreed with what the law was, you went to Congress and you proposed an amendment and you changed the law. What the president simply did is he announced it doesn't matter that the United States Code says January 1st, 2014. I'm extending it for a year, and he did it in a blog post by an assistant secretary in the Treasury Department. He has done that over and over and over again. And this pattern, this open defiance, I have a pen, so I will ignore Congress, I'll ignore the constitutional checks and balances, I'll ignore the American people, that is fundamentally a threat to liberty that should dismay everyone, Republican, Democrat, Independent, or Libertarian. Unchecked power in the executive and imperial presidency is utterly inconsistent with individual liberty.
And you know what, Senator? If you were sitting in the Oval Office or another Republican were sitting in the Oval Office, this wouldn't stand. The media would be freaking out. The Democrats would be freaking out. I mean, and he says it over and over and over again. I'm going to tell you why, Senator. Because he knows the law's not going to catch up with him. He knows Congress is relatively impotent at this point, and he knows the courts have pretty much, not exclusively. I've been involved in some cases where they shot this down, but pretty much when you look at Obamacare and so forth, they've been in his corner.
Right. Well, since 2012, the U.S. Supreme Court has unanimously rejected this administration's assertions of federal power 9 times, unanimously, every justice, because they are arguing for extreme positions. And let's take the most egregious harm from Obamacare, which is that over 5 million people have had their health care plans canceled because of Obamacare. After the president promised if you like your health insurance plan, you can keep it, we now know that was knowingly, willfully false. The reason over 5 million people had their health insurance plans canceled is because the text of Obamacare makes their plans illegal. The administration decided, we don't like the plans you have, and so they are illegal. Now, when he started getting political heat for this, the ordinary thing, the thing that 43 presidents prior to him would have done, is to go to Congress and say, look, this is causing real problems, let's fix it. He didn't do that. He held a press conference where he instructed private insurance companies issue plans that Obamacare on its face makes illegal. I am telling you, as President of the United States, you private companies go and violate the law for 1 year and just 1 year only. I mean, as you know, Article 2 of the Constitution requires that the President, quote, take care that the laws be faithfully executed. We have never seen in the history of the Republic a president instructing private citizens to violate the law at his whim and discretion, and a president who can pick and choose which laws to follow is no longer a president.
Mm-hmm. And
that's
it's pretty
dangerous.
And he's going to get up there on Tuesday, I guess it is, at the State of Confusion speech and go on and on about inequality, and I bet he brings up this pen again, this issue. Now, Senator Cruz, you're taking a lead. You're at the forefront now of pressing for a broader, more serious investigation of this IRS scandal. You're insisting now on a special prosecutor. You did it hesitantly because, you know, our system is supposed to address this, but it's quite obvious now that it can't. You've also been calling for a select committee. Go ahead and expound on that a little bit.
Well, sure. 8 months ago, the Inspector General at the Department of Treasury concluded that the IRS had improperly targeted conservatives and Tea Party groups. Now, that is a serious charge, using the IRS to target your political enemies. When that news broke, President Obama told the country he was outraged, he was angry, and he was going to work with Congress to get to the bottom of it. Eric Holder, the Attorney General, said that he was outraged and he was going to direct the U.S. Department of Justice to investigate and to prosecute. Now, 8 months have passed. In those 8 months, not a single person has been indicted. It has been publicly reported that they do not intend to indict anybody. Lois Lerner, who headed the division that was doing this, went before Congress and pleaded the Fifth, which, as you know, is the constitutional protection that says if she testifies, she might incriminate herself that she has committed a felony. And most strikingly, we discover that the lawyer that the Justice Department assigned to lead the investigation is a partisan Democrat who has given President Obama and the Democrats over $6,000 in contributions. The state of affairs is shameful. And this week, as you know, I wrote a letter to Attorney General Holder, laying these facts out, laying what he said out, what the President said, and the Department of Justice has a long and storied history as a bulwark for rule of law. You served in the Department of Justice, and you love the department and what it stands for. And what I pointed out to the Attorney General is attorneys general in both parties have had the courage, the independence, the integrity to stand up to the presidents who appointed them, even when it caused political problems for those presidents. So when Richard Nixon was accused of abusing government authority for partisan ends, his Attorney General, Elliot Richardson, appointed Archibald Cox as a special prosecutor. Likewise, when Bill Clinton was accused of ethical improprieties, his Attorney General, a Democrat, Janet Reno, appointed Robert Fisk as an independent counsel. And what I called upon Eric Holder to do is to demonstrate the same integrity, the same courage his predecessors have had, and preserve the Department of Justice, to not have it appear to be, or in fact be, simply a partisan arm of the most political and partisan president we have seen in modern times. And if the president was telling the truth 8 months ago, when he said he was outraged and angry by what the IRS is doing, then in the State of the Union next week he will announce that he is directing the Attorney General to appoint a special prosecutor who has some meaningful degree of independence, whose integrity is above reproach, and who, at a minimum, is not a major donor to President Obama.
Senator Cruz, let me just add this. And this is very important, what you're trying to get done here, and build support for it. Even back in 1937, when FDR was trying to pack the Supreme Court, his vice president, a former Speaker of the House, John Nance Garner, publicly spoke out against it. The Chief Justice of the United States went through back channels to tell the Democrat Congress to fight this, and they rejected it. What has happened to those Democrats? Are they in Washington, D.C. anymore?
It is a fabulous question, and you know, where are the Democrats? Where are the liberals? Where is the press? I mean, this pattern of lawlessness. Now, it was striking recently. Nat Hentoff, who's a well-known liberal op-ed columnist, came out quite loudly against the president's pattern of lawlessness and said it was the most dangerous he'd seen in any president, and that includes people like Richard Nixon, who knew a little bit about abusing power. You know, in past instances, when Republican presidents have abused their power, Republicans have stood up and called them to account, quite rightly. What is missing here is Democrats in Congress who will actually stand up for rule of law, who will stand up for the Constitution, who will say, look, the law that is written in the United States Code, it matters. I mean, you know, the phrase rule of law, a lot of people don't think about what it means. It doesn't mean that you have a lot of laws. Most societies have laws, and dictatorships often have an abundance of laws. What rule of law means is that no man is above the law, that we are a nation of laws and not of men, and especially the president is not above the law. When you have a president who brazenly, flagrantly stands up and says, I disagree with this law, so I will not enforce it, and I am decreeing it as changed, never mind the Constitution, never mind checks and balances, never mind Congress, never mind the elected representatives of the American people, that is dangerous. And one thing I would say to Democrats and liberals, and I know there are a lot of Democrats and liberals who listen to your show, Mark, is, as the Bible says, there came a Pharaoh who knew not Joseph and his children. Barack Obama will not be the last president. There will be another president, and in time there'll be a president of another party. And I would ask every Democrat and liberal to think very carefully, do you want the president to have the ability simply to set aside laws willy-nilly? Do you want a Republican president to have the ability to set aside environmental laws or tax laws or labor laws with the stroke of a pen? Because that's what President Obama is claiming. And that is dangerous. I can tell you I don't want a Republican president to have that authority. I want a Republican president who is limited by the checks and balances of the Constitution. And I would think there ought to be a whole lot of Democrats, a whole lot of people in the press who should be equally concerned about rule of law.
Yeah, it is absolutely appalling how the ruling class just accepts this and encourages this. And then you hear people clapping, applauding. Yes, 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 Mr. President, yes. Well, you know what? No. He may have a pen and he may have a phone, but, Senator, we have a Constitution. I want to thank you for coming on the program today and appreciate all you're trying to do, and God bless you.
Well, Mark, God bless you, and keep shining the light on our Constitution and on our liberty. We've got to get back to them both, because that's how we turn the country around.
Amen. Thank you, Senator Ted Cruz. God bless you, my friend. He's good. I could listen to him all day. Couldn't you, Mr. Producer? Just absolutely outstanding.